Welcome back, everybody, to a special live edition of the DCL Duo podcast brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel and also our good friends over at WDW Magazine, the makers of the special float test issue of the DCL magazine. If you are interested in getting your hands on a fabulous magazine that features all the great things about Disney Cruise Line, you should head over to dcl-magazine.com and sign up to get your float test issue today. Those can be delivered immediately to your mailboxes. You can subscribe to the magazine digitally, help support our show by helping our sponsor, WDW Magazine and the good folks at DCL Magazine. And if you head over there right now, you can get 10% off everything in the WDW Magazine store, including the WDW Magazine, the DLR Magazine, the special float test issue of the DCL Magazine, digital subscriptions, and their famous calendar, of which I know already Sam's going to say, hit them up and tell them you want a DCL focus calendar. So yes,
you got it.
Head over there, check them out, help support the show by supporting our sponsors, and let them know we sent you by heading over there and using that code DCL Duo, all caps DCL Duo, to get 10% off everything in their store. All right. It is Christmas Day for Disney Cruise Line fans. It's itinerary release day for those who celebrate. We have a great guest with us today who's going to help us walk through all of these wonderful itineraries. Welcome, Chelsea from My Path Unwinding Travel.
Hi.
Great to see
Welcome
you.
back, Chelsea.
Yes.
Chelsea was on to talk about was it the last itinerary release or the one before that? I can't remember.
Yeah, the last one.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you back. I want to say hi to everybody out there watching. Sorry, we were a few minutes late. We are just, scrambling at the end of our workday to get everything we need to get done to be camera ready for you all with all the information, all the details. I do have one piece of news before we
before you dive into your news, I've got to display this comment. Alan saying hello from the Bay of Biscay on the Fantasy. Thank you, Alan. It's always great to have you here.
It's like 2 a.m. there, by the way. He's still up because he's waiting for the Dodgers to be playing. He said like in, I don't know, half hour or something like that. So he's staying up for the Dodgers game.
And no pressure for Chelsea, but Karen has entered the chat. So hi,
I mean, the pressure is on.
I love it. So I got to give one it is a tidbit of news, but it is an important tidbit of news for some folks. So I had been hearing this actually a couple days ago and then heard it again today and wanted to put this out there. Cereal boxes, those little cereal boxes that you can get at breakfast in Cabanas and Marceline Market, they are disappearing off the fleet ship by ship. They are gone off of, I think, all of the ships except maybe the Fantasy and the Wonder. The Fantasy is in Europe, the Wonder is in Alaska, so it doesn't surprise me too much. But I wanted to tell people this because they're using instead, cereal dispensers because they're trying to eliminate waste. But the problem with this is that a lot of people use those cereal boxes as snacks for their kiddos. So they grab like some snack, they grab some boxes to take with them for an excursion day, especially excursions that don't include food, so that they have snacks for themselves and for their kiddos. Because as most people know, you cannot take most of the food from the ship off at port. And that is because it is not like pre-packaged. And so one of the only things available on board that you don't have to purchase that's pre-packaged is those cereal boxes. So I'm just letting people know I'm not complaining about it because I do think it's good that they're eliminating like a lot of waste by not using those small boxes. On the other hand, I know that this is sort of a clutch snack for a lot of those parents out there cruising, especially with little kids, Chelsea being one of them. And so I wanted to let people know because this might be a situation where you want to buy some snacks at your embarkation port, or you want to buy some snacks at a port of call when you're on the ship, or you might want to buy some snacks in Mickey's mainsail to take with you, because they at least have those kind of like goldfish, but they're little Mickey heads, and they also have pretzels and things like that. So you may want to buy some snacks on board, or grab some snacks at a local grocery store when you are at your embarkation port. So really important information I wanted to share out in the community. Okay, now let's get to the real meat of the day, which is, of course, itinerary release. We have how many ships, you guys? We've got 7 ships to cover, or 8 ships to cover, 8 ships to cover. Yeah. But I'm going to say we're really not going to talk about the Adventure, except to say the Adventure is still going to be doing 3 and 4 night cruises out of Singapore. And the Adventure is the only ship that doesn't have itineraries out beyond 2026. So we don't see anything. There's nothing listed on this itinerary release. Everything else goes out to 2027 through April or May, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the Adventure is the only one that ends at the end, I believe, the end of December. So we don't know what that means, if she's going to
already given up on Singapore.
Yeah.
I would hedge a bet and say it's probably to do with regulations at the port themselves, because it only goes through December. It's probably because they need to renegotiate for January and beyond. So that's probably why.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And it is possible that they might want to rejigger and hit some ports of call. Right now, they're just kind of, they're cruises to nowhere, and they might change that up, and they might change the length of their sailings, and some of that may have to do with port negotiations as well. And so I just wanted to put that out there. We don't have really anything to talk about because we haven't seen the Adventure yet. Disney's not releasing a lot of information about the Adventure, and this itinerary release really just has the same as what she's going to start doing when she debuts in December of this year. Okay, so moving on, let's where should we start, you guys? Do you want to start? Should we start with the oldest of the ships, or should we start with the newest of the ships?
I think we should just go. I was going to say maybe we should just follow along with the PDF here, Sam, which talks about the Bahama. Like, it breaks it down by where they're sailing, so makes life a little easier.
No, it's not. It's because this PDF is like, you have to jump around so much. I mean, this PDF is a helpful visual, but you have to jump around so much from ship to ship. I feel like we should go ship by ship. What do you think, Chelsea?
I'm a fan of the oldies. Let's start with the first.
Okay, let's start with the Magic. Chelsea, why don't you give the overview? Where is the Magic? What is the Magic up to starting in fall 2026 into spring 2027?
So the Magic is returning to San Diego. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 night sailings from October through November. And then we'll be heading... I dropped off the map here. And then we'll be heading to Galveston for 5, 7 night sailings.
Yeah.
And before returning back.
Yeah, it's so cool. So this is the great thing. A lot of people have been asking for Panama Canal cruising, to come.
You're getting
back.
2.
Yeah, so you're getting 2. You're getting eastbound, and then you're getting a westbound on the Magic. So if you're wanting to sail the Panama Canal, you've got 2 opportunities in this itinerary release to do it. And the best thing about this news about the Magic is it means we're going to have 2 West Coast ships again, meaning we're going to have essentially the same thing that's happening next year in 2026 for Alaska. This tells us that both the Magic and the Wonder are going to be doing Alaska in 2027 again, which is really, I think, a really cool thing to know. And there's some just like really great there's some really great itineraries in here, a mix of, this thing is way too small, so I have to bring up way too small for my old eyes. So I have to bring up my computer here. So if I'm not looking at the screen, you know why. But you've got all of these great sailings out of Galveston on here that include even a couple of 7 night sailings. that have 3 sea days, you guys. So like there's these sailings that go, or maybe 4 sea days actually, if I can't remember which one. Let me find it.
I think there might be one that's got 4 on there.
Yeah,
I'm
these
also
are just
looking at this very small PDF. So
it's yeah, it's a very
I'm just gonna
exactly.
take the PDF down because if we're not gonna
Okay.
follow the PDF, then we'll just be bouncing
Yeah,
all over the
4
place. So
4 sea days. Sorry, 4 sea days. So there are multiple Galveston sailings, one on December 27th of 2026, and then 2 in late January of 2027, and one in mid-April of 2027 that hit Nassau, Castaway Cay, and have 4 glorious days at sea. So if you have like not experienced the magic and you really like want to check out the ship, I would say that's the itinerary for you. They've got, of course, like a ton of shorter sailings as well. As Chelsea mentioned, there's like, we've got a very nice mix of like 3, 4, 5 nights on pretty much all the ships except for the Treasure. Everything, it seems like every ship has, except the Wish as well, has some 7-night sailings and has a variety of like 5-night, 4-night, and 3-night. The Wish, of course, having its 3, 4-night. So I think there's some really good variety. Andrew's asking, where can I find a copy of that PDF? We will post the PDF in our Facebook group following this show. But it was shared with us from some TAs. It is also available on the Disney Cruise Line blog. They have it posted
they used to
there.
make it available on the website with the information about the new sailings, and they have since stopped doing that. But yes, we will make this PDF available after the fact. So yeah.
Oh, and Karen's actually, I think, posting it. I can't tell if that's actually posting it in the YouTube chat or Brian may be able to tell. But anyway, it's helpful. It jumps around a lot, so it's helpful to look at if you want sort of an overall view of like where every ship is sailing. But it doesn't go ship by ship. It goes region by region. So it lists like the Bahamas cruises all together. It lists the Mexico cruises all together. It lists the Caribbean cruises all together, that sort of a thing. Okay, let's jump over to the Wonder. Chelsea, why don't you tell us, where is the lovely Disney Wonder going to be?
The Wonder is going to be in San Diego. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-night sailings. I love that there's like overlap between the Wonder and the Magic in San Diego. It just means more West Coast sailings for the rest of us. So, I mean, she's hanging out in California for a long time, probably in preparation to then make her way up to Vancouver and start Alaska sailings in the spring.
Yeah. And the cool thing about another cool thing about having both the Magic and the Wonder is you actually have 4 opportunities for repositioning cruises. Now they're all short. There's one that's a 5-night and the rest I believe are 4 nights. But repositioning cruise between San Diego and Vancouver, and they are all just glorious sea days as well. So again, if you want to experience just the ship and not really are concerned about the ports, and you don't care about not visiting, Castaway or Lookout Cay, as I'm wearing my Lookout Cay shirt, then those are great opportunities. The one complaint I have about the Wonder's itinerary schedule is I was looking at sort of prime spring break time, so March and April, and the Wonder and the Magic are doing a lot of short sailings that don't necessarily align well with like a Monday through Friday spring break schedule. Like they have, they leave on a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Monday and or a Tuesday, and they're all like 4 and 5-night sailings or 3-night sailings kind of mixed in depending upon the schedule. And so I was hoping for us, this is just my selfishness, coming out, like I was hoping for us, we could book a spring break cruise on the West Coast for Nathan's spring break. And I was hoping, we could do like a 7-night without having him missing any school. And that's just not possible. We'd have to do a back-to-back and he'd have to miss like 2 days of school at least. Or if we go on the East Coast, the only option for the East Coast is the 7-night on the Treasure. But then again, he has to miss 1 day of school because we have the day to travel there. So not a lot of great spring break options But I will say I saw a lot of great Christmas options. I thought the Christmas offerings, like the holiday offerings, lots of longer itineraries, some 5, 6, and 7 night itineraries on the West Coast, doing the Mexican Riviera. And to me, that those seem like really, really, really good. I don't know.
Yes. Selfishly, I was also hoping the same with the spring break cruises. We have kind of an off spring break, and we do have friends in San Diego, so we were kind of hoping this would be our year for San Diego
Yeah.
cruise for 2027. But I would agree. I think there's a lot of holiday sailings, especially for the West Coast, more than there have been in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's move on to the Disney Dream. Where is the Disney Dream going to be sailing, Chelsea?
So the Disney Dream is going to stay in Fort Lauderdale for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 night sailings, and then is actually going to make its way back to Port Canaveral at the end of the spring.
Which is really interesting. I think this will play into what we're going to talk about in just a little bit. Does it show what she's doing when she hits Port Canaveral, Chelsea?
Let's see.
I can give the spoiler there.
Yeah.
She's doing 3 and 4 night sailings going to Nassau and Castaway Cay.
Yeah.
So, and that's in, and I believe that's in May of 2027, you guys. So put a pin in that. It's a very important fact that the dream is. We'll circle back to that later on when we get further along in the ships. Again, the Dream has some really great holiday itineraries. There's tons of designations of Halloween on the high seas, of course, on all the ships, as well as maritime designations. And they have, like, I thought, a really, really nice array of holiday sailings. Again, 5, 6, 7 night, sailings that are maritime themed ones. And a lot of them hitting, Lookout and Castaway. There's across all the fleet, there's some double dips that go to Castaway twice, some duo dips, meaning you go to Castaway and Lookout, right? There's some really great options on there.
Can we rewind for a second? Because I feel like you skipped over the big headline from the Magic.
What was the big headline?
Panama Canal.
We did. I already said it. You missed it. We said you get 2. You get an east.
I think that deserves a bit more airtime. The people have been demanding these Panama Canal cruises. You must have given it like 30 seconds. So the Panama Canal
didn't.
The Panama Canal is back. That's huge.
I will say that those are probably the 2 longest sailings we have on this itinerary release, because there really isn't another long 14 plus night option on this itinerary release right now.
Yeah, 13-night transatlantic. Because we don't have 13-night transatlantic.
Well, yeah, that's the westbound, right? That's the Dream, but that's at the very beginning. That's the Dream coming back, which we knew was going to be coming because she had to come back from Europe. So the very beginning of this itinerary release has that 13-night westbound transatlantic. But what we're missing in terms of longer itineraries is, of course, the Trans-Pacific crossings, right? Because we don't have any Trans-Pacific crossings going to, we don't have anything going to Hawaii, and then of course going from Hawaii to Sydney. So that's really the longer sailings that are kind of missing. But we have these that kind of replace them.
I also want to call out.
And it is confirmed that they're not going to be going back to Sydney for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I also want to call out that that means there's no Hawaii sailings on here either.
Correct, no Hawaii sailings. That's what. I mean, unless they do like they've done in previous years before they started going to Australia, New Zealand, where they would do like a triangulation, right? They'd go from San Diego to Hawaii, then Hawaii to Vancouver. But this season, we don't see that. This season, we see just 4-night and 5-night repositioning cruises on the West Coast.
Yeah, I wanted to point that out too. The Pacific Coast cruises, a little disappointed, Disney, because like 4 nights. 3 sea days.
Oh, with no stop.
There are no stops. They're going from Vancouver to San Diego and the reverse with 0 stops. And there are some fabulous port stops that you can make on your way up the West Coast. I don't know. San Francisco, Astoria is a popular stop in Oregon. Maybe you could stop in Seattle and we could take some pictures of the ship from the waterfront where we live. But like I'm a little disappointed. Most of the Pacific Coast repositioning cruises I've seen of late, at least, are making stops along the way, and so that's a little. I don't know. I don't love that from Disney. I also wanted to call out. I noticed. I don't know if you noticed this, Sam, but on the Wonder, they are doing those 7-night Mexican Rivieras again.
Yes.
But the one that we took, I think, stopped at. Didn't it also stop at Mazatlan
Yes, so the one that we took stopped at Puerto Vallarta and Mazatlan and
and
Cabo and
Cabo?
didn't go to Ensenada.
Yeah,
The ones that they have on here now either go to Puerto Vallarta or Mazatlan and also stop at Ensenada and Cabo, or Cabo and then
yeah. So
Ensenada,
they've
right?
got
So
what they've
yeah,
got one sailing, or like it looks like one sailing that's going to stop at Mazatlan instead of Puerto Vallarta. But yeah, that
correct.
re-adding that
Actually, I think
Ensenada
2.
stop in there is really not exciting
Yeah,
to me. So yeah.
yeah. All right, well, you just jumped backwards. Let's go back to
Well,
the
I had some
dream.
things to say. It says co-host under my name, doesn't it? So there you go. Keep going. Keep going.
So I want to go back to the dream, because the dream, I thought there were a couple of really nice itineraries that I wanted to point out. There is a 7-night in the middle of February that is listed as an Eastern Caribbean, and it's, of course, this is out of Fort Lauderdale. Chelsea mentioned she's mostly sailing out of Fort Lauderdale until she repositions she repositions from Europe to Fort Lauderdale, and then she'll stay in Fort Lauderdale until she repositions to Port Canaveral in May. But February 19th, there's a great itinerary that goes to Phillipsburg, St. Martin, San Juan, Puerto Rico, and Castaway Cay, and then it has 3 days at sea. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because the Treasure Eastern Caribbean mostly is, going to Tortola and St. Thomas and Castaway. And so it's the more unique Eastern itinerary that Disney does. These are ports Disney goes to. They just don't go to quite as often. And then, of course, you have similar on the Destiny. You have some interesting Eastern Caribbeans and Western Caribbeans on other ships as well. But I wanted to point that one out because it is a different. It is a different itinerary on there.
Yes. Yeah, you've got some great port stops on the Dream
Yeah.
upcoming.
Yeah, I think they're really trying to, entice people to Fort Lauderdale, and that's why they've got all of these some really good, more unique ports, and then of course you also have some, a lot of the more double dips and duo dips on this ship, and that really on the sailings out of Fort Lauderdale, more generally speaking. But yeah, she's got some great options for those 4 and 5 night sailings. All right. Well, let's move on to the Disney Fantasy. Chelsea,
Yeah, so
what is the overview for the Disney Fantasy?
the Fantasy is sticking in Port Canaveral with those 3, 4, and 5 night sailings, stopping at Castaway, Lookout, Nassau, Days at Sea, sticking with the bread and butter there.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's got some good holiday sailings as well. Those are really the only, I think, unique ones that I saw on the Fantasy, if I'm remembering correctly. I thought she had some 7 nights on her itinerary as well. Am I misremembering?
I
Maybe
don't
I'm
think so. It's
Oh,
the Dream and Treasure and Destiny that are all doing the 7 nights.
they have the 7 nights. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, so she's gonna just continue doing that 4, 4, 5, which that makes sense. She's been doing that other than Europe. She's been doing that now for a while. The Dream was, they've kind of swapped back and forth between which one of those ships is doing that. Okay. So nothing really out of the ordinary there, which
Yeah.
brings us to perhaps the biggest news of the evening. But let's start with let's start with the overall. What is the Disney Wish doing, Chelsea?
So the Wish is sticking with the standard 3 and 4 night sailings out of Port Canaveral, Castaway Cay, Lookout Cay, Nassau. But then at the end of April, we don't know what she's
We have
doing.
nothing. We have
We've got
nothing. Okay.
nothing.
So April 27th is the day that the Wish returns to Port Canaveral. She offloads her passengers, and we have nothing beyond that. Every other ship, except for the Adventure, which we talked about before, we have the entire schedule through the end of May. other than, well, actually, Wonder and Magic, we know they're going to be on the West Coast. We don't have their entire May schedule, but we know they're going to Alaska because they both end in, Vancouver. The Wish is the only ship possible to be going to Europe in 2027. Unless they were going to send a brand new ship, Wish class ship number 4, over to Europe, which I'm going to put money on, that's not going to happen. If I were a betting person, I would put money on the Wish going to Europe in 2027 because typically speaking, this year, the Fantasy went over to Europe, started its transatlantic crossing on May 1st. Next year, the Dream is starting its transatlantic crossing on May 2nd. And so the Wish is going to start its transatlantic crossing either the very end of April or the beginning of May. She's also due for a dry dock. So this is another clue, I think, that Wish is going to go over to Europe because both the Fantasy and the Dream have dry docked over in Brest, France. Or one is scheduled now to go dry dock in Brest, France at the end of the Europe season. And so it makes perfect sense that the Wish, which is another ship that was built by Meyer Werft, which both the Dream and the Fantasy were, would go over to the same port in Brest, France for its dry dock. So the Wish is at 5 years old in 2027, and that's why it needs a dry dock. It came out in 2022, so 2027 is when it's due. So Sleuthing Sam predicts the Wish going over to Europe in 2027. You heard it here.
I would hedge a bet and guess you're probably correct. So we'll see though.
Yeah, we'll see. Exactly. I mean, Disney can always change things and they can always decide they want to prove me wrong. But like I said, I think that's the only thing that could be in the plans for right now. We don't have any information about Wish class ship number 4, meaning when it's coming out, but I would also put money on the fact that it's going to come out sometime summer or later. I don't think we're going to see Wish ship number 4 in early 2027. The last several ships that they have launched have been, the Wish was in, what was it, July or August, and then it was supposed to be June and that was pushed to July, and then the Treasure was in December, the Destiny is going to be in November, and the Adventure is going to be in December. So I'm going to say summer or later in 2027. All right. Okay, moving on, you guys. This is the Treasure is our next ship. Chelsea, this is kind of the boring one, even though it's such a great ship. But tell us, what's the Treasure going to do?
I mean, the Treasure is probably my current favorite, but anyways,
yes,
it's sticking with the 7-night sailings, doing Cozumel, Castaway Cay, Falmouth, Grand Cayman, San Juan, St. Thomas, Tortola, those classic Caribbean port stops.
Yes, absolutely. It does have a couple of those alternate itineraries, I think, mixed in there, or is that just the Destiny that has those? It has the Tortola and St. Thomas, as you said, with Castaway. Does it have the alternative one that goes to Phillipsburg or San Juan? That was
the Dream's doing the 7-night Eastern to
that
San
does
Juan.
that.
It does. I believe it does have one that stops in San Juan. I don't think that it has one that originates or ends in San Juan. I think it's purely round trip.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so Treasure gonna stick with what she's been doing since she debuted, 7-night sailings. The Destiny has more variety, I would say. Chelsea, tell us what the Destiny is up to.
So the Destiny is going to be doing 4, 5, and 7-night sailings, going to Cozumel, Castaway Cay, Lookout Cay, San Juan, and Puerto Plata.
Awesome.
So we're getting a little bit more variety there. And
Cool.
It is going to have some that I believe go to... Oh, yeah. It does have one that goes to Phillipsburg as well, a 7-night.
Yeah, I was looking at some of those itineraries, and I was I was thinking, in fact, I was texting with Brian earlier today about Christmas options. And I think for us, there's kind of like 3 options on the table because we of course want, longer sailings, always. And so for us, there's like some options that have 7 nights on, the Destiny, of course, 7 nights on the Treasure. There's even, I think, a 7 night on the Wonder out of San Diego over Christmas. And so there are, multiple options, there that look really, really tempting. I have to say the Destiny seems to have more variety than what I was expecting, right? Because we were told when she was announced that we're going to have multiple sorry, I just lost my train of thought. We were told that we're going to have the same pattern of the 4-5-5, right? We're going to have the Western Caribbean, the Lookout and Nassau one, and then the alternative one. And there's actually a lot more variety in here, than what I was expecting. And so I thought that was really interesting. In fact, I think there's even some 6-night sailings on here as well, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, it's hard to remember all of the things.
No, there's no
No,
6 nights, no, except for
oh,
Mexican
those are the
Riviera.
Dream. Yeah. Oh, Dream at
Yeah,
Mexico and
yeah,
Wonder Mexican Riviera. Okay.
yeah.
Gosh, it's like
So
hard
hold
to
on.
keep track.
Yeah, hold on one
And
second.
there's one 6 night on the Dream.
So,
Yeah.
so there's some chat comments here. I just want to make sure we highlight for a second. Okay, so
Yes, and I know the answer to this question. So there's a comment in the chat about whether or not the Fantasy and the Dream are going to Brest, France or Cadiz, Spain. I'm pretty confident that the Dream went to Brest, France for dry dock last year, and that the Fantasy is going to Brest, France, this year. But I could be wrong, as to the location. But I'm pretty sure that that's where Disney's been doing the dry dock for the last couple of years. Sorry, Brian, was there something else in the chat?
Yeah, I was not highlighting those comments, but thanks.
Oh,
I was going to highlight, someone was asking, did you say we should expect both the Magic and the Wonder in Alaska for summer? I think the repositioning Pacific Coast Cruises guarantee that. So they've got 4 repositions on the schedule, and so both ships are going to be up in Alaska for Alaska season.
yes,
No indications of
repositioned to Vancouver at the end of this release schedule.
Yeah, no indications of Hawaii. And then there was one other one on here. Tracy's asking any holes for DVC member cruises. We did not.
The answer is no. No, nothing that we found. I will say there was, if you look at the Disney website, Brian had found, and I think Scott Sanders on DCL blog had also found, that looked like there was a hole of 12 nights in April of 2027. But the PDF, if you go to the PDF, it shows 3 and 4 night sailings that would fill that hole. So I think that's just a website glitch. I don't think that there's actually any hole there. There is the DVC member cruise that was announced right after the last itinerary release. That is, I believe, August 31st of 2026. That is in Europe on the Disney, what is it? Whatever ship is going to be in Europe next year. The Disney Dream. Sorry, I like trying to remember where is each one. Yeah, so that's the only member cruise that is at least available that is in 2026. 2027, my guess is, I don't know if Brian, if you have a different guess, but my guess is that we're going to see it in the next release, maybe in the summertime or in the fall.
Well, I'd expect a first wave cruise in connection with maiden voyage of the newest ship in 2027, because they seem to be doing that. But yeah, I would also guess they'll do something potentially in the summer or later, because these itineraries only get us up to the spring. This is a bigger release than what we've traditionally seen from Disney. I think it speaks to them moving to that twice a year release cycle, away from the kind of more 3 times a year, sometimes 4 times a year cycle that they were on. So yeah, I would expect to see the DVC member cruise at some point in the summer, maybe, unless they're going to do something sort of more unique. Who knows? Maybe they'll do a DVC member cruise on the Adventure. Who knows at this point? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So there's a question in the chat I want to answer. So the Destiny and the Dream sharing Port Everglades till 2027 when the Dream goes to Canaveral. The answer is yes. So the Destiny and the Dream will both be sailing out of Port Everglades. They sail different days, so there shouldn't be any issue with them being, in port at the same time or anything like that. Assuming if something has to change, I'm sure there's overflow space available. Port Everglades is a large port with many terminals, but of course Disney has a dedicated terminal, just like it does at Port Canaveral. And then obviously what we were talking about with the Dream going to Port Canaveral, that's the other sign that the Wish is going to Europe, because somebody's got to take over that 3-4 night itinerary. And the Dream obviously is going to be doing that. And that's what's been essentially announced by this itinerary release, that starting in May, the Dream will do those 3 and 4 night sailings out of Port Canaveral. So that means it's taking over what the Wish has been doing since the Wish debuted in summer of 2022, which makes a lot of sense. Obviously, they're going to rotate things around. We don't know what's going to happen in terms of when Wish class ship number 4 comes out sometime in 2027, like I'm predicting, like I said, summer or late 2027. We don't know what itinerary that ship is going to do. It could take over the 3-4 night sailings. It could take over the 7 night sailings. It could go to Port Everglades and do these 4 or 5 sailings. We just really don't know. I think there's a lot of possibilities. There's possibilities that one of those that ship could go to Galveston, right? Because we know they have made a big commitment to the port of Galveston, and the Magic is going to be there for a significant portion of time, but she's not going to be there all year round because she's doing that Panama Canal sailing. She's doing a couple of San Diego sailings, and then she's going to be doing the Alaska season. So I think that there's an opening there for another ship to move into that Galveston spot, given that commitment to Galveston. Chelsea, any predictions about which ship might go to Galveston? Anything you've been thinking or hoping for?
The Magic has done Galveston a lot, so that's probably a good guess that they will decide to keep her there more long term, unless their plan is to, with moving the Wish around in April, that they may at some point bring her around to Galveston to make room for a new ship in Port Canaveral.
Yeah, I think that's a really likely prediction. I think that the Wish, after she does her dry dock in Europe and crosses back, there isn't really necessarily going to be a spot for her if Wish class ship number 4 is out at that point. And so there isn't really going to be a spot for her, in Port Canaveral or Port Everglades. And so the logical spot is that spot in Galveston that's open, because we'll have the Magic over, in Alaska, or finishing up the Alaska season, or, depending upon what the timing. So yeah, I think it's going to be super interesting to see. The other question is, what are we booking? What are we eyeing, Chelsea? What are you eyeing?
Oh my gosh, I would love to do a 7 night on the Wonder out of San Diego. That is my dream cruise right now.
Yeah, I love that. Brian, do you want to tell folks what we're thinking about? We can't hear you.
I kind of wanted to talk about some things that are catching my eye, even if we're not booking it, if that's okay.
Sure.
You've been covering it all, so I don't know if there's room for my opinion in the show at this point. But there's a lot of great double dip opportunities scattered throughout these itineraries. 3-4 night opportunities. One thing I noticed that's really nice is an opportunity for some very maritime cruises that have a sea day instead of a stop in Nassau, and go to Castaway Cay. And so very maritime cruises tend to be pricier, especially the 7 night cruises on the newer ships. And so this one's on the Wish, which new but not the newest. And so I have a feeling it's a great sort of opportunity to get a very maritime sailing in, kind of more on a budget. And so that caught my attention. I'm loving all of the opportunities to get to both Lighthouse and Castaway across these 3, 4, and even some of the 5-night sailings. I think I saw kind of a triple dip at one point. I know the Destiny is doing a lot of like no stops in Nassau, but stopping at both of the islands, which is really really nice. Chelsea, I love where your head was at, because these 7-night sailings, like a 7-night on the Destiny, that's fantastic.
Yeah, the 7-night is that triple dip, Brian, that you were mentioning. That 7-night, December 5th. It's not a great date for most people, probably. But it goes to Lookout, and then it goes to Castaway twice, and then it goes to Nassau and has 2 sea days.
Yeah. So these 7-night sailings are on the Destiny especially look really interesting, and it's great time to get some more experience on the ship apart from its sort of shorter sailings. But they do come at sort of not great times from a school schedule perspective. Although one of them is over, I think, the President's Day holiday potentially on February 6th in 2027. So those 7-night sailings are looking pretty good. I wish we've been trying to figure out what we're going to do for the holidays next year, and I kind of wished one of those 7 nights fell on a Very Maritime cruise. I was a little surprised it didn't, because it gives them an opportunity to like have the ship for a week on a Very Maritime sailing, which is usually a little easier on the crew as well. But alas, that's not happening. So anyway, I thought those were great. I think it's great to have Panama Canal back for sure. And so, yeah, those the ones that caught my attention were some of these shorter cruises with, kind of only going to the private islands, not stopping at Nassau, and then those 7-night sailings. I will also say it is great to have Catalina in the lineup again in San Diego. That is, for me, it's kind of a sleeper hit of a port for me. It's nice. It's a nice little port to go visit, and so I love to see those Catalina stops back in the mix here. So yeah, I think there's a lot of fun itineraries in this release. I don't think there's anything earth-shattering in this release. It's kind of same old. Karen was asking in the chat about whether we should just abandon all hope that they'll ever go back to New York. I'm not going to go that far yet. I mean, we've heard rumors that they will go back to New Orleans at some point. I'm sure that there's enough fervor out there around New York and wanting a ship in New York. I could absolutely see them having a ship in New York. I think what we're really in is like a transition period right now. And as the fleet expands, you'll see more home ports. Not on this release, but hey, it's not over till it's over for 2027. So we've got one more release to go. Yeah. So
Brian, the one you missed, you were saying there wasn't a 7-night for Christmas. There is on the Disney Wonder. There's a 7-night on December 22nd. And that's the one that doesn't go to Puerto Vallarta. It goes to Mazatlan, and then So
what I was hoping for was a 7-night on the Destiny specifically around the holidays. I thought it would have been interesting to have a 7-nighter available at the holidays on the Destiny. And they aren't doing that. So, it's understandable. They got to keep some of these itineraries, like the shorter cruises, to fill the ships. So, anyway, I think we're trying to figure out what we're going to book for the holiday time. And now we've got too many options. I had to start a chart, because it's like, do we go back to back for 5 nights in San Diego? Do we try to go for a week on the Treasure, or do back to back on the Treasure? Do we try to do back to backs on the Destiny? So, we're not going to fly all the way to Florida for less than a 7-night sailing. So we got to do back-to-backs if we're headed that direction. But yeah, we're also digging being able to go down to San Diego for Christmas again. We did that a few years back and really enjoyed it. Managed to squeeze 10-night back-to-back, which we could do again. But I don't know.
Not 2 10 nights, just to be clear. 5.
No, 2 5 nights to turn it into a 10-night. Yes.
20 nights. That would be fantastic.
Sam, your microphone is cutting out on us now, so I think you're having some technical difficulties over there. So I want to highlight some of the chat here to see this. Folks were posting in the chat where they were headed. Holly saying, "I'd love to do one of the Panama Canal cruises." We've got or a 7-night on the Southern Caribbean on the Dream. Taryn saying she's probably going to hold off booking anything until the military discounts come around. I can completely understand that. Taryn's happy to see a lot of the San Diego sailings. There's some other folks up here who had some stuff they were looking at. Tracy, of course, is saying, I'm booking whatever you and Sam are. Thanks, Tracy. Kermit was saying he was interested in the Dream 7-night San Juan cruise and booking the Wonder out of San Diego. I think those San Diego itineraries are going to be popular with the West Coasters especially, so that's going to be great. If you are listening to this after the fact or you're in our Facebook group, let us know what you're planning to book. We'd love to highlight that for folks. So yeah, a lot of goodness here. We should talk for a second though about the booking dates, and I'm going to see if I can make this work again by changing the application that we want to look at. But we've got the booking dates up here. Oh, it's not, the technology is not cooperating tonight. But early booking. So interestingly enough, they have in the past opened this up to do booking for Pearl starting on Fridays when they release on Tuesdays, and this time around they are not. So the booking dates this time around, Pearl Castaway Club members can start booking on Monday the 25th. So that's this upcoming Monday. Platinum opens a day later. So Pearl, you got to get on it this year. You don't get the Friday, the weekend, and then, maybe part of Monday too. You got to book on Monday, and then Platinum opens up Tuesday. Gold opens up Wednesday. Silver opens up Thursday. So it's just a regimented release. They will not open to the general public until Tuesday, the week following the Labor Day holiday. So Tuesday, September 2nd is when it opens to the general public. If you happen to be a DVC member or an Adventure Insider and you have not yet sailed for the first time, you can jump the line a bit to book at Silver Castaway. So on Thursday, August the 28th. But so that is the schedule for booking based on your Castaway Club status this time around. Before we head out, any last thoughts here, Chelsea or Sam?
Well, I think, Chelsea, you should tell folks how they can reach out to My Path Unwinding Travel if they want to book. I already see Tracy in the comments saying, Chelsea, we will be in touch.
We'll be chatting.
The other, there is go ahead, Chelsea. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think there's a delay on my microphone. So I will say that if you would like to reach out to My Path Unwinding Travel, you can always email us, or you can email Karen, or just our general mypathunwindingtravel.com, mypathunwindingtravel@gmail.com for our email address, or you can reach out to me directly, Chelsea@mypathunwinding.com.
Awesome.
I did want to highlight one comment in here with the Wish heading over to Europe. Do we think that will change any of the stops given the size of the Wish in comparison to the Dream and the Fantasy that went over? I mean, I do want to highlight, like, Royal Caribbean sends some massive ships over to Europe. So I'm sure there are ports that are capable of accommodating the Wish, which is still smaller than some of the Royal Caribbean ships that sail in Europe. But I don't know about, they asked specifically about Norway. I don't know about Norway. They may have a limitation on the size of the ships that can cruise the Norwegian fjords. So I don't know. I don't know what happens to the itineraries like Norway and others, or if there are going to be port changes. We'll find that out next release. Not to punt, but
the fueling issue, right? Because we know that the Wish class ships use LNG fueling, which is not what the Dream and the Fantasy use, and not what, of course, the Magic and the Wonder use either. And so, I'm sure that is coming to ports in Europe, but that might change where, the itineraries in Europe look like. So we don't know the answer to that question yet. But again, if you are interested in booking, booking starts Monday for Pearl cruisers, and each day it progressively moves down the line until you get to the general public. If you want to book with My Path Unwinding Travel, you can reach out to them at mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo if you want to let them know that we sent you over to them, or reach out to your own travel advisor to book those itineraries. Like I said, starting Monday. I know we will be. We just have to figure out what.
Yeah,
That's a big question.
There is one other comment. Oh, this is a placeholder comment. So let me get that off the screen that I was trying to test. But Karen's mentioning the prices for concierge on the westbound transatlantic are bonkers. I want to pause for a second and say the prices on concierge are bonkers for a lot of these ships. Because I was looking at the Christmas sailings and the New Year's Eve sailings on like the Treasure and elsewhere, and I think a deluxe family room in concierge was starting at between $14,000 and $18,000 for a 7-night sailing at times. So like that was the starting price, and that's for the not a 1-bedroom, not a suite. That's just a standard family deluxe veranda that is, you know, decked out for concierge and has the concierge benefits. So I continue to think that the pricing is getting a little bit out of hand for that product. So I agree with you, Karen. The prices on some of these sailings for concierge are looking a little steep these days. I don't know if anyone checked the prices kind of across the board to see how much of an increase there is. I know Scott Sanders usually tracks that stuff. I'm assuming there's been some amount of increase in the pricing, which is interesting given the amount of sales and deals that Disney has been offering of late. So I don't know if their strategy is to go the route of like the Royal Caribbeans and maybe in the future start to do some of these, you know, 3rd and 4th passenger sail free, you know, 15% off, whatever it is. But the prices seem high. So yeah, that's just want to comment on the pricing from what I looked at today. So yeah. All right. Any last words, Sam?
I just want to let folks know, like, remind you all, we will not be here next Monday because we will be embarking on the beautiful Disney Wonder out of the beautiful port of Vancouver, British Columbia. And so we will be heading up to Alaska, but we will be back the week of Labor Day. We'll either be back on Labor Day or the following day, just depending upon what we can make work with our schedule, to bring you a live episode all about our Alaska sailing, which I have never been to Alaska and I can't believe it. And I'm so excited. And I'm just hoping that we have decent weather.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. By the way, Alan is saying in the chat that he was just in Norway on the Fantasy. So, you know, one can hope. So,
yeah.
All right. With that, we will wrap things up. Chelsea, thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for all of you out there for watching, listening after the fact, consuming our content in any way that you like. And we appreciate all of you out there. We will see you in 2 weeks after our trip to Alaska. And with that, we will just say good night.